So, welcome everybody. We're so glad that you're here. My name is Joy Rosenthal. I'm on the board of One Breath Rising, along with Rick Brown and EJ Antonio, who will speak in a moment. Today, we're thrilled to have Myronn Hardy with us, um, who's coming from far away, but or Myronn will explain more about that. And we're closing out the 2022 year. We've had a really excellent year and we're thrilled to be here. So thank you very much for coming and for watching the video. And EJ, why don't you take it from here?
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us as we close out our 2022 year with an amazing poet, Mr. Myronn Hardy. I will read his brief bio. He has a much longer one, I'm very sure, but his brief bio says, Myronn Hardy is the author of 5 books of poems, most recently, Radioactive Starlings. His poems have appeared in the New York Times Magazine, Ploughshares, Poetry, the Georgia Review, the Baffler, and elsewhere. He lives in Maine and is an assistant professor of English at Bates College. I want to say that I have known Myronn for many years, and he is truly, truly a wonderful, wonderful poet who really touches the heart and the spirit of the people and the places that he's met in the places where he's been, where he's lived or visited. And I think we're in for a very, very much a real treat this afternoon. And we are so thrilled that Myronn agreed to do this reading because Myronn is joining us from Morocco. So I hope that everyone has a wonderful time listening to Myronn and his work. Myronn, it's all yours.
All right. Thank you so much, EJ. Thank you so much for the invitation. It's a pleasure to read work and share work with you all. Happy holidays to everyone. So I guess I will start. I'd like to read poems mainly from my most recent book, Radioactive Starlings. That is a book that is interested in the often conflicting relationship between the natural world and technology. And then I'll read maybe 1 or 2 poems from another book, Kingdom, and then hopefully I can read some even newer poems. So this first poem is a piece that comes out of an experience of witnessing women outside of a mosque in Morocco during the holy month of Ramadan, begging for money. It's called Solemnity. At the mosque's entrance, 3:30 a.m., Syrian women beg, wearing black gloves. Your father's grandmother was Syrian before the country was ash, before the government turned to kill its people. What incites that internal blaze? What says, it is me I will take, or not me, but those whom I claim? We are claimed after meditation. We are walking an empty street after pretending to play drums. After I recognize the heather in air, after we swim in a pool surrounded by azaleas, after your mother smiles, observing us, after we sleep in her house. Fields of sunflowers. I'm on a bus watching them sway. I'm forgetting the distance, the inevitable loss I will hold warm as snow whitens the green. What will you hold? What will you see beyond your hands? Streets lined with jacarandas that morph to pines, to a self beneath ice that wolves trample silently. Someone still begs. Someone still believes in our innate generosity. You are waiting for me, but refuse to say it. You believe in returns. You believe in the planet's roundness. You believe in gravity's inaudible assurance. You believe in what I doubt. Okay. So when I first began writing poetry, I wasn't really interested in traditional forms. I was deeply committed to free verse. I felt that traditional forms would confine my work, and I wanted to definitely just defy convention. But I discovered that forms themselves, traditional forms, can sometimes shape the mind of the poems into something very surprising. So this next poem is in the voice of a ship, an oil tanker sinking. And the form used is the ghazal, which is a 7th century Arabian form that uses autonomous 2-line stanzas or couplets, and the poet's name has to sort of exist in the end as a signature. So this poem is called Ghazal of Wreckage. The intent was safety, affable confinement beneath the black of sky, but there was boom. Steel seams releasing the black in blue. Tumultuousness in funnels, never meant for sky's eye, rings in the blue. This wreckage, this release of the black mind meticulously. Greed as God, the almighty deity, the lie inexplicably true. The captain is dead, seeing the black from black sky, seeing swirling spheres, waves. I'm the cause. Blame me. The captain has wrecked the black. He has wrecked me, yet I still float in pieces, have failed in pieces. No corrosion in pieces, pieces never intact. The black is innocent, yet made to surround anemones, sink silver schools, saturate sand sticky. The black sky can do nothing for its black brother, a xylophone of color without percussive potential. What we do to the black is take, everything taken as it takes the blue. As I sluggishly sink in the black, growing, separating into crude starlings. They are lifting into wind, wings viscous. The black of them drips into the blue they have left, been made. Circles, circles, metaphysical gyre in the black sky as they call, as they know the turning. A phase, a period turning the black, dripping into its remains. Most of the moon is black. A sliver occupies the black it is. The sea is. The oil birds are. Ezra isn't asleep, but pacing, feeling his wreckage wounding the black. All right. Fernando Pessoa was a Portuguese poet born in 1888. He died in 1935. He was known to have created over 100 sort of pseudonyms with full histories and distinct poetics. So I thought that instead of creating pseudonyms, I decided on starlings informed by the cities where they dwelled. Part of this has everything to do with, the starling has traveled in a particular city, so the starling is informed by that city. So all of these poems are um, really sort of thinking about the starling having a voice, if that makes sense. And they're in the form of American sonnets, a name coined by the poet Wanda Coleman. This kind of sonnet doesn't have a rhyme like a Shakespearean sonnet or an English sonnet or a Petrarchan sonnet or an Italian sonnet. So I'll just read a few of those. So this is Pessoa as Starling, New York City. Everything up, climbing up granite, steel. A poet cries chrysanthemums. A vase breaks in Harlem on Lenox before meals are served to nuns. Opal beads quick as lace through canonical fingers. A black feather falls in black hair. His father has black hair sunned brown in groves where I flew. Poems in groves, walled in loose stones, but the poet needed the gun. The father to send his sighing son to the city's sighing streets where black women saunter, sing, carry vases of water, sometimes salty, sometimes fresh. This given to the poet unconsciously conscious of riots, the street, the body conscious. So this is another Pessoa Starling poem. This is called Pessoa as Starling, Tunis. That hollow building built in 1923 is a cage with windows wide as wild. I fly over Avenue Habib Burgo, perch in a tree pruned to green squares, wondering when again. The raucousness, the fragility, belief anchors. My song is silence, but theirs is not. The rhythm of subversion after nothing, after everything red dries to skin. Tanks ready to blast, barbed wire in pythons, military on guard, all warning to never rage, never ask, never human, never. All right, and this is the last Pessoa's sonnet. This is Pessoa as Starling, Lisbon. My father is dead, as is my brother. Absence is invisibility, but I feel them in currents folding through feathers, hills where cathedrals collide with unconsciousness. Starshine glares with such whiteness like crests. I dive into the hard crests of this land like the Atlantic, salty with subjugation. Not a bird of prey, but preyed upon. My silence, so insincere. I tell you of this place, transcribe it through another name. A man I make up, sing to, perhaps in a dream, through possession. Call me mysterious, alone without flock. I claim no one, but they will claim me. All right. I want to try to find something that's happy-ish. uh, all right. So let me look for one of those. I'm still looking. And looking and looking and looking and looking. And you know what? Why don't I do this? why don't I share? I'll read a poem. This next poem is new. I'm going to share my screen. I was walking on red, very sun-baked earth in Morocco, in a Moroccan village, and it reminded me of Mars. So with this particular poem, I worked with a composer. We did a collaboration, Gabriel Bolaños, and he created a sound music as I sort of read the poem. The title of the poem is "Sometimes I Believe I'm a Moroccan Poet Exiled on Mars." So let me see if I can share my screen and if I can actually find this on my screen, because there are so many things on my screen. It's the wonderful thing about technology. Everything is possible and everything can go wrong. So let's see about all of that. Okay, I'm gonna try to, let me see if I can share my screen now and find, okay, there it is. All right, so can you all see this? Sometimes
Yes.
excellent, excellent, great. So I'll just play the recording, and the poem is here. So here it is. Sometimes I believe I'm a Moroccan poet exiled on Mars. But I'm from the middle of another country. My cells are snow crystals with faults perpetually breaking, fusing to others. I see red, violet in an opal sky. In autumn, the pies are pumpkin, cherry. But for 9 years, I've written poems near seawater, on beaches where camels graze, longing not to see seas. But I want to see them, not storms swirling pages to ash. So much red moving clockwise. Counter. Where are the clocks? Time as pastoral. The budding, bursting, the flight of seeds, the spheres of hay wound on land purged. But all I see is dust. My hand in dust. I'm writing in dust. What I'm writing will become dust. I'm the premonition of dust, exiled here. All right. So how am I doing in terms of time?
You've got plenty of time if you want to read for another. I know it's a strange format because nobody responds, but we're all here, we're all listening. But do you want to read for another 5 or 10 minutes and then we'll open it up for questions and answers?
Yeah, another 10 minutes, Myronn.
10 minutes? All right. Another 10 minutes. All right. So I'll read another poem that is in a traditional form. So this poem comes from my book Kingdom. This poem is a sestina, a 12th century French form with 39 lines. This poem is thinking about what a small town often asks or expects for its young people. This poem is called Blue Cards in the Cafe of Old Men. Yassine plays cards with old men. They see him as a son who remained in a town the young flee because they have to. There's a cloud in the cafe, brown as bark, yet no storm above them. only the dark darkening that room of smoke. The cards have blue backs, lines of smoke spinning from imaginary airplanes where those men are pilots, their cards on the floor suddenly dark. Yassine wants them to ascend, wants to have remained a magic trick his father performed against Bark where he disappeared. He wants to leave that town, but doesn't want to disappoint those old men who smoke themselves to clouds, surrounding oak bark as if gauze. They are wounded men. We are an arena of limestone, which has remained despite time. Heads split, arms dropped with age, dark with rust veins like earth itself. Deeper the dark dazzles. Outside, women are kneading, oiling dough to fry against seasoned steel. They have remained constant in that town, feeding that town as smoke rises from steel, from warm bread those men eat, playing cards from day to sunset, skin slowly to bark. This is seen through a smudged window where the bark of oaks is mossy against the cafe. The curtains are dark with filth, regret feral yet caged. The men collect cards, stare at cards in fans. Want Yassine to disappoint them, want Yassine to peel smoke away from skin, to run, to have remained the boy his father left, to have remained the boy in love with bark. The cloud in the cafe is still brown smoke, making them sick. They cough in the dark they have created to cope with the boy they've ruined. Those men have remained magnificently dark, like the bark which hasn't greened to moss. Yassine will blink, smoke among old men. Okay, so let's see. Oh, thank you. Let me read something something very new. This poem is called Buccaneers, Hollywood Africans, 1983. And Hollywood Africans is a painting by Jean-Michel Basquiat. And so this poem, in many ways, is thinking about Basquiat's life. It's also thinking about the idea of looking at a painting and what that relationship is between the painting and the observer. All right, so here's the poem. Not Los Angeles, but Boston. We are allergic to pollen. We don't smoke tobacco, but I'm sure an ancestor did in a field, after the field work, after the turn from sun, after pondering the pale pink blossoms like bugles, she may have thought. I'm distant, inside of the yellow, its glare, its toil. I turn away from it, not a hero, but the quiet one, dissolving. That's my self-portrait. Here, not here, excluded. Two of Basquiat's artsy New York City friends were his buccaneers in Los Angeles. They all missed New York City. They all smoked. They all played music, not banjos like us, something more electronic, something always spinning. I'm spinning even though still. My mind is a pinwheel. I read the world. Okay. Should I share my screen one more time? Does that sound exciting?
Yes, yes.
Okay, excellent. So this is a collaboration I did with the filmmaker Anita Clearfield, and she came up with this plan where I would write a stanza, and then she would create moving images to respond to that stanza, and then I'd respond to her moving images, and we sort of went back and forth, and that's how this poem came about. So once again, doing this delicate thing of technology and hope, but hopefully glory. So let me okay, share screen. All right, share screen, and all right. Box, nod, yes, no, maybe. Okay, I'm assuming you can see this.
Yeah, we
Yeah,
can
we can see it.
You can see it. Okay. All right. So here it is. Ruined capacity. On this morning, we mourn what isn't heard. A raft that sinks in an unknown river. The three who drown. I'm afraid of the rocks, the motion, the things that remain. All of the pieces strewn about speak to those we didn't know, refused. Yet their absence haunts through sunlight, paper, the rhythm I abruptly hear. The self-hatred now. I could have known. I could have. I didn't. Instead of this raft, a conversation. A meal of oyster mushrooms, chanterelles with garlic, rice. Something halal, roasted. All of this to know each other, see each other. No need for the danger of water, of drifting, the wreckage of certain instability. No one drowned. No one waterlogged. No moon in daylight. We could have been daylight. We could have known, figured out a plan. We could have welcomed each other. Okay. So, thank you, thank you. So, should I read one more poem
Sure.
or two more poems?
Two more would be great.
You lost. Okay, your audio's back. Okay.
Okay, great. All right. So I'll read two more. Let's see. Oh, there's a whole. All right. So this is, let me see. Let me read an abad. So this is called Abad Lovely Dark. Absence, how it begins to trickle in that sealed place. The sacred opening of blinds like peonies or 4 o'clocks without redolence. The moon is gone. The mother of pearl buttons, circles on your coat, flung on that hard chair. What will it say when you sit? Drape its cotton, its silk lining over shoulders. The absence like rainwater, cold. Drink this cold water. Wash your hair with cold rainwater. We are running. Stop beneath the awning where your hair swirls about my fingers in curled ribbons. The ribbons you tied about your waist. They coiled, then fell, then coiled. They were the color of peonies or 4 o'clocks. I'm leaving before the sky is white, before absence loops my feet to carpet, before the brass knob ceases to turn. Oh, love, the turning. Why must we turn this lovely dark today? Okay. All right, I'll read one more. This poem is called Paseo. Pomegranate blossoms on paper. She is drawing pomegranate blossoms on paper while wearing pomegranate blossoms in dark hair. A red explosion in a fallow field. No harvest. The Atlantic is loud as we pass. Hold its blue in our slowing brains. Cones of sunflower seeds. We pour in palms, pop in mouth. If they land on ground, no fields, no reminders of sun, nothing tall, swaying, nothing hypnotic. In a background of crashing, we are walking slowly, stars as street lights. The streets are dirty. They are scrubbing the floors of the fish market as there are no more fish. Everything's sold. Suds on marble like the crests you see. No starlings on ruined balconies, indate palms drying. No news of murders, those drowned. The floating we can't see, such tumult. A playwright is buried in the Christian cemetery. He faces the sea perpetually. She pulls pomegranate blossoms from her hair, leaves them on the pale grave. Her hair, now in waves, wind in the waves. Thank you very much. Thank you, thank you.
Thank you, Myronn.
Thank you. All
Great.
right.
So I've been taking notes seriously, what kind of questions I was going to ask you.
Right, all right.
So I'm going to start with the very basic question. When did you know that you were a writer? And what poets inspired you then and continue to inspire you now?
Sure. I didn't call myself a writer or it was always for me a kind of secret thing. Yeah, it was just holding on to this thing that I guess I thought was very private, but it needed to sort of reveal itself. So, I never, I didn't call myself specifically a poet until I published my second book. I would always just say I kind of write things because I don't know. I mean, I guess, and I'm sure many of you know this, when you're writing a poem, it's just like, you're wherever you are writing this thing, and you don't really know if anyone will ever see it. And for example, when you call yourself a writer, for example, that's public. I am a writer. It's grand. So it took me a while to call myself a writer, but I think I knew from a very early age that I wanted to write, that I was compelled to write, that language was very important to me. In terms of important poets to me, Elizabeth Bishop has been extremely important to me. Yusef Komunyakaa has been very important to me. Bob Kaufman has been very important to me. Who else? I mean, there's so many. Okay, now of course I'm forgetting everything right now, all the writers, but Fernando Pessoa. I'm thinking about his work. I mean, I wrote poems thinking about his work. Fernando Pessoa is very important to me as well. I think early on, Langston Hughes was important to me. Just discovering Langston Hughes's work was important. Jean Toomer was important to me as well in terms of thinking about form. Lucille Clifton is extremely important to me. Frost. Yeah. Okay. So I can go on, but yeah. Wallace Stevens is really important to me in terms of his writing, not the person.
Uh-huh. So you mentioned in the beginning of one of the poems that when you started writing, you were pretty much in the free verse camp. and that you slowly begin to see that there could be some use for writing in form. And so you mentioned like caught three different forms: the abad, the ghazal, and the sonnet. And I just wanted to know, do you have any other forms that you tend to gravitate to? And if you do, how do they shape your work?
Okay, sure. Yeah, I read a sestina. I like the sestina because they're difficult.
That they are.
Yeah, it's sometimes they are impossible, but one tries. And the thing is, particularly about forms, I like what a form can make me do. A form makes me do things that I would not normally do. And it literally it's trying to, I think I mentioned this before, is this idea of shaping one's mind, shaping the poem, shaping your thoughts, putting your thoughts in a box,
Mhm.
where your thoughts can sort of morph into a particular space. I'm trying to think of some other forms that I really like and that have shaped my work. I love the pantoum. That's a fun form. Yeah. Is that answering your question?
Yeah, it does. Every time I hear you read, and when I'm reading your work, it's almost as if you are actually living in the images that you write, the scenes. So it's kind of like you're there as a shadow,
Hmm.
and it gives a depth to the work that you can place yourself into that scene. You can see the moon, not see a moon in a daylight sky, and I want to know, is that quality always been in your work, or is that something that you developed in your years of writing?
Well, thank you for noticing that, and thank you for seeing that. That's something really want to do. So maybe it's working. Yeah, that has taken a lot of, for me, that's revision. Because one of the things I want to do in my work, I want the reader to really see everything and not just sort of things at a distance, but in many ways, I want you to, what does moonlight, moonlight feel like? I want the reader to actually feel the things that they see. That's very, very important to me. I like poems that allow us to have various senses in one space, if that makes sense. You're not only seeing the moon, but you're feeling the moon. You're not only seeing a street light, but you're feeling the street light. So that's one of the things that I'm trying to do in my work. I want I want senses to combine. And I want the reader to be there, feeling, seeing, smelling everything.
It's interesting. I remember when you first went to Morocco, you had a Facebook post and you described the moon outside your window.
Mm.
And it was like, in those few lines, it was like, and I've never been to Morocco. It was like I was there, that I could reach out, that if I reached my hand out of my window, I could touch that moon. And I always thought that was I just always wondered, how does he do that? Because it was like I could reach my hand out of my window and touch that Moroccan moon. And so your work always affects me that way. I'm there. I can experience that place I've never been, as though I had been there before. And that's how I when I read your work or I hear you read, that's how it affects me. So since you craft your work to kind of keep that feeling, how did working as a collaboration with the two artists that you showed us the results of, how does that affect your work? Because I do a lot of collaboration through the music end, and yours, there was some music, but it wasn't a lot, but it was a lot of visual, really, and the sound of the natural occurrence of water. So how did that affect your writing? How did you find, you write a verse, she does imagery, you write another verse in response to that? How did you find that whole collaboration process?
Well, I really like that process. It was something very, very new for me. You know, as you know, when you're writing your work, it's just you and that page or you and that computer. So yes, this was definitely something new, and it was actually, it was wonderful. She came up with this idea because going into that particular process, I just thought I would write a poem and then she would just take the poem and, you know, do something with it visually. But she suggested that we do this sort of back and forth, and that was the best thing. And it's just wonderful just to see how different forms can mesh, different forms can make us see different things, can make us uncomfortable. And I think it's important. One of the things that I, you know, when I teach poetry, I always talk about this idea that it is important for the writer to feel uncomfortable, and that's when you know that something is working. So I think with that collaborative thing that I did with the filmmaker, with Anita, that was, it was new. There were moments when it was uncomfortable, and it opened something up for me, and I think for her as well. And it made the process, it just opened up possibilities in terms of what I can now do, because I've gone through that with her.
Mm-hmm.
What I now do in my own work that has been informed by that collaborative or that filmmaking process. So it's just another way of, you know, opening my own creativity. So, and
Mm-hmm.
I think that's what collaboration does in general. It's opening up various realms of creativity in order for us to see in different ways and make in different ways. So it was, I enjoyed the experience tremendously. So
Are you all planning to do more of that?
we, yes, I mean, when we finished, yeah, she specifically said, yeah, we should definitely do something else. And I definitely want to. I think it's great. To make more art, you know, is always a great thing.
Yeah. I know I have some other people, Cheryl, Jackie, if y'all have any questions, feel free to jump in. Now, Myronn, your first poem, you said it was about some women who were begging on the street. Yeah. In Morocco. I think this is really like a craft question. How do you as a writer keep those women who become subjects of your poem, keep them from becoming victims?
To becoming victims. Well,
Right.
it's interesting because I think those women are victims of a country. that has been made unsafe by the government.
Mhm.
The country has impoverished them. And I think that in terms of writing about what I see, and writing about victimization, I think the idea of always making sure that the people that populate your work are human, are always human.
Mm.
And that's often the problem, when someone will take an experience and make something that is inhumane out of that experience. And so I'm always, I mean, my work is about, hopefully I want it, it's about what it is like to exist on this planet. What is it like to exist with plurality? What is it like to exist in a place that is safe for others, safe for some, and not safe for others? And so, you know, for me to not write about injustice, to not write about um, marginalization,
Mhm.
is to not see, is to not be fully human, because it's everywhere. So that's my response. Am I, once again, am I answering that question? It's just like,
Well, you are. Because I sometimes I read poems and the person, the human subject, sometimes they're so downtrodden in the work that it's almost as if they have no agency to feel anything other than their circumstance.
yeah, 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 please.
And that to me, it's like, but they're a person. It's like if I write about a jazz musician in a poem, and yes, I may know they might have had a drug problem or whatever. That's not their whole life. So I always try not to just focus on that particular thing. There's got to be something else that kept them going, because nobody, like, the commercial was right. Nobody started out in life to be a drug addict. I mean, you know what I mean? They had a hope, they had a dream. They still may have those hopes and dreams. It's just that their current circumstances is keeping them from doing something. But that doesn't mean that they don't feel other things or live a different experience.
Yeah, the spectrum of humanity is full, is complex. Yes, we are not one thing. And to write about, as you mentioned, to write about someone as sort of one note is
Right.
to extract the human from that person. And in art and in life itself, the whole purpose of this is to show the fullness of us, our experiences, human experiences. It's not merely to show one sort of note, one aspect, because I mean, we are complex. The world
Right.
is. You write to
Cheryl,
that.
you have a question?
I don't know if you remember me, but
I remember.
Myronn, Cheryl Boyce Taylor. Cheryl Boyce Taylor, Myronn Hardy.
yeah, no, Gita, you and I have spoken about it many different times.
Right.
It is so good to see you and so good to hear you. I don't believe that I've heard your work again since your first book, which when I read your first book, I knew you had so much there. And so it's just lovely to hear you. And and see you. You haven't aged a day. But I want to just say a few little things. The very first poem you read, and I made some notes. When you said you saw the hands outstretched with black gloves, it took me back to my childhood, where these women were very religious, and they went to the Catholic Church, it seems like every day. And that's how they had these little black gloves on lace. And then they had the black mantilla and, you know, the black veil. And when you started that, it brought me right back there. And what it made me, I didn't feel that they were victimized or anything. I know that they had a whole lot of richness in their life, and that this was just one aspect of it. It made me want to go in and do some research to find out who these women are from that region. So, you know, it really just like opened the door for me to be curious and wanting to know more about them. Willie Perdomo speaks about that too. I took a class with him, and he was like, you can't just portray this person as a victim, because this person has all types of richness in their lives, whether you can see it or not. So it should be written with the door open so other people can walk in and take what you shared and what you stirred in me is what I want to say. I also want to tell you that I love the flowers and the fruit and all the colors. I mean, I see the red and the orange. And in my work, I write a lot about flowers also. So that definitely pulled me to the work. What else? Yeah, so those are some of the things. Thank you so much for this reading. And of course, formal poems are always, I dread them. I don't like to use them. I have some forms that I use over and over again, but new forms, I know that I like what you said. I wrote it down. You said, at the very beginning, let's just bear with me for a second, because I wrote it and it really struck me. You said the formal poems, or form poems shape the mind of the poem into something surprising. And that's why, as much as I don't like forms, I keep pushing with them, because they do give something surprising. And one day I hope that I'm able to give that gift, especially with some of those forms that you called. Oh, those hard forms that I struggle with still after all these writing years. But thank you, very, very amazing.
Thank you so much. That was very generous, and it's a pleasure to see you again. Of course, I remember you.
Okay, yes, you too.
Oh, well, hi, Myronn. It's been 1,000 years, but good to see your face and hear your fine work. I particularly like Lil Bod. My favorite line, why must we turn the lovely dark today? Really nice. And it's just good to hear your work. I haven't kept up with all the books, but I'll be catching up.
Oh, yeah.
But thank you. Thank you for your lovely work. And it's nice to see that you continue to blossom in an entirely different location and world. So carry on.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate that. Good seeing you. Yes, it's been such a long time.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
Yeah.
We got used to you being in Morocco.
How long did you stay there in Morocco?
I stayed in Morocco for 9 years.
Oh, wow.
Long
And where
time.
are you now?
Well, at this moment right now, I'm in Morocco.
Okay.
Yeah,
But
you're in Bates, you said, right?
I'm at Bates, yeah. So I'll fly back next week, and yeah. But we're on holiday break, so
Uh-huh.
still
So
have
you're back in the US.
back in the
No,
U.S. Yeah,
Okay. Okay.
the Northeast.
Yes,
Yes.
he said he left New York, he went to Maine.
But did you keep your New York apartment?
I did not.
yeah,
Oh, I know. Uh, yeah, but here we are.
no one could see that. No one could predict that. That we should have kept every little thing we had here. I'm serious. Because
No,
once you leave, it's really hard to hold on. Crazy times. Mhm.
So you
how
say
is
your new book is coming out in
yes, yeah,
October 2023. It's got a
October.
new book coming, everybody.
And what is it called again?
It's called Aurora Americana. Aurora Americana.
Nice title.
Mhm.
Yes. And that poem, that the first poem I read is actually in that collection.
Oh, okay. There's one other thing I wanted to say that I love the way you use black. It does not, with the ship, with the gloves, with the women, it doesn't have the cliched meaning of, what people have turned black into. There's a richness about it, a joy about it, a surprise about it. So thank you. Yeah, I really like how, especially that poem about the ship. It was so much black going down, coming up, but it wasn't negative. It was just positive and expanding and growing. That's beautiful.
True, true. Well, we will definitely be looking forward to your new collection when it comes out. I will get my copy.
And what is the collection now, presently? What is the name of your collection now?
Radioactive Starlings. Radioactive Starlings. That's the most recent book.
Okay.
Most of the poems that I read come from that book. So
And are you with an American press or?
yes,
Okay.
yes.
What press is that?
It's Princeton University Press.
Oh,
Yeah.
Nice.
I will look for it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Joy, you have any questions?
Well, I was just noticing that there's a lot of alliteration, and I didn't know what question to ask. I just noticed that. I get, and I also was thinking it's a lot about place, about the spirit of the place. And it's not like so much. I was just thinking about like different kinds of poems. Like some are like love poems, like I love you, I love you, I love you. That was not this, right? This was really about kind of meditating on the place. I like what you said about you want people to feel like you're there, and what EJ, what you said about
The
when you looked
moon.
out the window, you felt like you could see the moon, or even though it was somewhere, it kind of brings us all closer together. So I
Yes.
don't know what the question is. I don't know if you want to respond to that.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think place is very important to me. But in those places, I think we can find all of the things that, once again, that mirror or are human itself. And that's really what I'm trying to think about in the work. The place becomes a living being, just
Hmm.
as you know, as people, as you know, the plants, the animals, etc. Everything is sort of living. It's not just sort of flat. Um, yeah, I want everything. This might sound crazy. I want everything to sort of live in the work. Um, I want everything to feel in it.
Mm.
So
Hmm. That's an interesting concept. The place as a living being. I like that.
thank you, thank you.
I like that.
I mean, but just think about this idea that, when we're walking around, we are literally breathing lives, plants, the earth
Yeah.
itself, the cells that are, flying off of everyone. I mean, all that is life. We are
Mhm.
living and everything around us is living, and we're constantly sharing that. So, yeah, so for me, as I mentioned, my work is an attempt to engage all of that, um, to make that idea very clear. Um, so yeah.
I could see that because during the pandemic, and I have plants in my house, but I just needed to keep taking cuttings and starting new plants. I don't know, there was something that I needed to hold on to in that to feel alive and to feel real. So I ended up having too many plants in my house. But I say that part of that really kept me alive, that and the poems, writing the new poems.
Mm.
Interesting.
I had
So
to have
Myronn,
something new.
do you have any new short stories coming out?
Short stories. Well, I am working on this novel, so that's not
Oh,
not quite a.
Ooh.
It's a 8-year long fight,
oh, okay.
fighting with words story.
Hmm.
Is
Oh,
it set in the US or outside of the US?
so yeah, part of it is definitely set in New York City.
Oh,
Uh,
okay.
yeah, so a lot of it is in the United States, but it is also set in Cuba and in Morocco
Oh,
as well. So we'll see what happens with that. I actually have it here in a stack. It's it's here.
well, congratulations with that, and congratulations on all the new work and the existing work.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Well, if nobody has any further questions, we're going to wrap it up. And I want to thank everybody that came today. This is our final reading for 2022.
Mhm.
We've debated another whole year around the sun. And Myronn, I want to thank you so much for joining us and reading for us. And because your work is really, really wonderful. And it really is something that it can connect with all people. Everyone who reads it, regardless of age or education level, or they can place themselves in that work and connect with it. And that is that's really a true gift to have, to be able to write so that people can connect with the work.
Very rich. Mhm.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. That's a very deep compliment. I appreciate that.
You're welcome. All right, everybody. Well, Myronn can actually get some sleep, because I think, what time is it now, Myronn? 11 what?
It's 11:51.
It's almost midnight in Morocco.
Yes. It is almost another day.
Okay. Well, have a good holiday, everyone.
You too, Cheryl, Jackie,
you.
Joy, Rick.
Yes, you too.
We're talking about we're small but mighty. This was very mighty.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
We're very appreciative.
Very
And be
invigorating.
sure to join us next month because we're gonna have Randall Horton as our feature.
Ah,
Nice.
And February is gonna be Glennis Redmond. So
Oh,
Oh,
nice,
dear.
nice.
we're starting off heavy in at the beginning of the year, y'all.
all right. Sounds good.
Okay.
All right.
Right.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much. All right.